Well, guys, I am so excited to have Dr. Patrick Morley on the show. He is the author of From Broken Boy to Mended Man, also from Man in the Mirror Ministry. And Dr. Morley, Pat, it is great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Vern. It's an honor to be with you, and it's really wonderful to be able to talk to your men as well. I'm excited about this.
Well, we have taken a whole bunch of men through my course, and what we did is after that, they all, or those who want to join an alumni group, and we
Mm.
were looking around for some material to help men, and we stumbled across your book, From Broken Boy to Mended Man. So right now, I am in the middle of leading four different groups, walking through your book chapter to chapter. So we are
Whoa,
thrilled.
that's serious.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
we,
It's an
we
honor to
love it.
be co-laboring with you then.
It has been a great book. And one of the reasons is as we have been working with addictions, in particular, my struggle in helping men with porn addictions, we realize that men are starting to ask the question, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And let's just start by asking, how did you get here? How did you write the book From
Yeah.
Broken Boy to Mended Man? What was behind it?
All right. So just a high view,
Hmm.
but I'm going to start with a story and then I'll
Okay.
move up
Yeah.
to that. So when I was 53 years of age, my
Okay.
mother died.
All right.
I didn't feel anything. I wasn't sad. I
Hmm.
didn't cry. I didn't miss her. And I
Right.
thought that was pretty unusual.
Right.
So I made an appointment with a counselor. And over 8 sessions, she helped me to understand that I was a broken boy, that I had grown up. I never, so everything that happened to me, I didn't know any difference. I was just a kid, but
Hmm.
I have no recollection, even to this day, I have no recollection of ever hearing the words, I love you,
Right.
I'm proud of you, we believe in you. I have no recollection of physical affection. Now, I'm not
Mm.
naive. I'm not saying these things never happen,
Right.
but it is significant that even to this day, I have no recollection of those things. We were a nonverbal family, very non-affectionate family. Now, here's the conundrum. My parents are really nice people.
Right.
So when my counselor said, I believe that you are the product of gross abandonment, I spent the next 20 minutes arguing with her about it.
Right. Okay.
Talking, well, wait, when I was in the sixth grade, I was the king of my sixth grade class, and my mother, she dyed a sheet red and then made yellow fringe around it. She
Hmm.
sewed it on, everything. That doesn't sound like gross abandonment, but
Right.
anyway, as we came to really work through it all, uh, did come to the realization that that I had been feeling like I was on my own from the age of about 10.
Hmm.
Apparently I made some kind of a a vow at the age of 10. Okay, if you don't need me, I'm done with you.
Right.
And so I began to distance myself from the age of about 10 on. And so, yeah. And so when and now this is just answering the question,
Yeah, for
the
sure.
one question,
Yep.
what's this about and how'd you come to write it? So when I met Patsy, my wife
Hmm.
now of over 50 years,
Yep.
she was a Christian.
Hmm.
And I thought I was a
Okay.
Christian,
Right.
but it became very clear within a couple of weeks of our marriage that we had different ideas about what that meant. I was
Right.
committed to a set of Christian values,
Right.
and she was committed to a person. And so um, the story of how I became a follower of Jesus is a story for another day, but I did, and I started to grow at the age of 24.
Mm.
My, when I was 25, my mom and dad invited us to come out for Thanksgiving dinner. I'm the oldest of four boys,
Okay.
and we had not been together as a family for several years. I
Hmm.
quit high school, joined the army, went away, and basically tried to have as little to do with my family as possible. In fact, if not for my wife, I probably would have had no contact. But our family, as I said, had not been together for several years. My brother had been off at war and he was home. And so my
Hmm.
mom and dad invited us all out. And so we went and we were the family growing up, Vern, that would say grace over meals.
Right.
But it was that God is good, God is great, and we thank you for this food, amen, as fast as we could,
That's what we
And
prayed. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And just wrote,
Mhm.
no thought behind it. This particular day, my dad said, if I'd like to say grace today. And so he started out, Lord, Mom and I would just like to say thank you. And then he started blubbering. That's as far as he got. And
Wow.
he got up and he excused himself and went into the bedroom. And I went in after him. I said, Dad, are you all right? What's the matter? He said, No, it's all right. I just need a minute to compose myself. I said, Yeah, Dad, but what's going on? He said, No, it's okay. I said, Dad, something's the matter. Tell me what's going on. And he said, Well, it's just that your mother and I never thought we'd ever see our four boys together again in the same room.
Hmm.
And something
Wow.
something happened in my heart that day. And because I was starting to grow as a Christian,
Hmm.
I, in my mind, I just decided that I was going to unilaterally forgive my mother and father for everything. Now,
Okay.
I didn't know, it would be years before I realized that Jesus teaches unilateral forgiveness. Forgive
Right.
us our sins as we
Hmm.
forgive those who sin against us. It's not forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us, provided they come and bow their knee before us and plead with us it's just, unilateral. And so,
Right.
but the problem is that, Vern, is that I didn't have, and maybe part of it was that the language about brokenness was not as well developed as it is today.
Correct.
But I then went basically about my life, and so it took another 28 years from 25 then to 53 when my mom died when I got this sorted out, and I sort of went through a lot of the steps that are
Hmm.
required to heal, but I didn't know what I was doing clinically, at least. And so, what the reason I wrote the book
Right.
is that I thought we might be able to do in a matter of a few months what it took me 3 decades to figure out. And so apparently that's happening. There are thousands and tens of thousands of men now who are engaging with this book and finding that the Lord is using it to help them. Yeah.
Well, and one of the reasons why I like your book and have found it so helpful is you're described growing up, and it's not that you were raised by wolves or that you were raised in this high level abusive family, and which most people would say, well, that's not me. And it was so helpful for guys to go, okay, I can relate to where he's talking about, because I am just coming to an awareness
Mm,
as to why I am the way I am.
mm.
And I guess the question is, you described, that situation when you were in your early 20s and then coming back to it at 53. Do you find that there is a time when men begin to seek answers to that question? Why am I the way I am? Or do you just see that at all ages where men using your book or other
Mm.
means are starting to ask that question?
Well, first of all, I think it's all ages of men.
Hmm.
So this is why a man, whether you're 18 or 80 or anything anywhere in between, can read the book of Ecclesiastes or the Sermon on the Mount, and it speaks to that man's heart, right?
Right? Yep.
That said, there is a bell curve distribution.
Okay.
So younger men, maybe in their 20s, who are they're wanting to figure out who they are, but they're not
Mhm.
thinking about how they got to be the way they are that particular
Right.
day.
Yep.
And then older men, you know, uh, maybe have worked through these things or given up, one of the two. But there is a body of research that says that it's somewhere around 35 years of age, plus or minus 5 years.
Hmm. Okay.
There is this um, tendency of men to do three things. Number one, it's to settle down
Right.
and be a better husband or to the wife they have, or get married.
Hmm.
Number two is to be a better dad to the children they already have or start a family. And then number three, they'll take a job that they would have turned their nose up 10 years earlier.
Hmm.
So there is
Okay.
this kind of mid-range thing that happens. And so I see a lot of men are re-examining
Right.
how they got to be who they are at that age. But I see it across the spectrum.
Okay.
Here,
Well,
here, here, here's here. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
well, and I was going to say one of my questions was let's go back and just describe some of the metrics that you use to help men evaluate their growing up. So, for example, one of the things you said, well, I don't know if you want to use minerals or nutrients or vitamins. Every child needs love, structure, roots, and wings. Do you want to just briefly describe what those four are? Maybe we know love, but what is love, structure, roots, and wings that every
Mhm.
boy should have had growing up?
Yeah. And so if I could expand on that, just the
Please.
preface of that, there are like seven negative parenting styles that I help men identify the parenting
Correct.
style they grew up in, plus having parents that were affirming or encouraging. So, Matt, if you're listening, and you can say that, well, my parents were encouraging or my
Mhm.
parents were affirming, then that means that your parents put together the right cocktail of
Right.
love, structure, roots, and wings. But what if you can't say that?
Mhm.
Well, then you probably grew up in one or more of seven negative parenting styles. My parents were passive.
Okay.
My parents were absent. So maybe it was
Mhm.
death, maybe it was divorce, maybe workaholism.
Mhm.
My parents were permissive. When I was dating my wife, Patsy, she said to me one day, she said, I think your parents gave you too much say.
Got it.
My parents were
Yep.
very permissive and passive. And
Mhm.
then the fourth negative parenting style, my parents were enabling. They didn't
Mhm.
hold us accountable to do the things that we should do at the appropriate ages. My parents were angry. I had a guy put in a fence for me, and I gave him a copy of the book. He was sharing all this with him, and he said, I feel like I grew up in Auschwitz. I
Wow.
I had to walk around all the time like I was on eggshells. I never
Mhm.
knowing when my dad would blow up. My parents were demanding. Number six, that you could just never. I have another guy said, no matter what I did, I could never make my dad happy ever.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
then the seventh negative parenting style is belittling. My parents were belittling, making fun of me, maybe in public, maybe making fun of a body part that I had no ability. Like,
Right.
so I have fat ankles, but
Sure.
yeah. And so then there's in the book there are diagnostics for each of these, so a guy can self-assess whether or not these things
Mhm.
are going on in his life and to what degree. And then so anyway, so if you can't say my parents were encouraging or affirming, then you would identify with one or more of those seven negative parenting styles.
Right.
So the way you get to being now dads, and so the arc of the book is helping men understand what happened to them. Part two is about healing. Then part three is
Exactly.
about breaking the cycle for the next generation. So, guys, if you're listening and you want to break the cycle because you didn't have that growing up, then what you want to know is what does it take to be a dad who's in the picture, a dad who's making a difference. And that's the right combination cocktail of love, structure, roots, and wings. Okay, so love, and this is verbal and physical
Mhm.
affirmations. So,
Mhm.
so the paradigm for this is Jesus at the baptism and then at the transfiguration. For those of you who know those stories, the Lord spoke and said, "This is my beloved Son,
Mhm.
in whom I am well pleased."
Right.
In other words, I love him and I'm proud of him. So, step number one is every day. And some of you probably just need to drop off the podcast right now and tell your children, text them, call them, and tell them that you love them and that you're proud of them. Because the rest of what I'm going to say doesn't matter because that's what you need to do. I'm
Right.
being melodramatic here. But anyway, so love and then
Mhm.
structure. Uh, Larry Crabb, he's
Mhm.
deceased, but he's a great counselor from up near you, I think. And we had children in diapers, I heard Larry Crabb say at a conference, children need to know two things. Yes, I love you, and no, you can't have your own way.
Got it.
Yes, I love you, and no, you can't have your own way. And if you think about it, every problem
Right.
comes out of a corruption of that. So, yes, I love you, and yes, you can have your own way. Oops.
Problem.
No, I don't love you, and no, you can't have your own way. Oops.
Yep.
No, I don't love you, and yes, you can have your own way. Oops. So you need to get that right. So structure. So when our children were growing up, we used to go up to North Carolina, and there's a cliff there that goes 750 feet straight down to the valley.
Hmm.
Beautiful place. And I let our children walk right up to the edge of this 750-foot cliff and play. And I didn't even watch them as they did that.
Hmm.
Well, why would I do
Where was
that?
your wife?
Yeah. Well, the reason I could do that is because there were guardrails along the
Oh,
cliff.
okay. Got
So
it.
there was that structure.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of research on this, and basically when kids have structure like that,
Yeah.
they feel confident and they
Yes.
go right up to the edge.
Yeah.
When there are not proper structures in place, they lose confidence. So they need structure. They need to know where the guardrails are. And then roots, and of course that's self-explanatory almost, but helping children to find something they can do well,
Hmm.
find out whether they're good in sports or they like music or whatever it is. And then also the family values that can be gained around the dinner table and so forth.
Hmm.
And then finally, wings is helping them develop the competency so that they can be independent of mom and dad and survive in the world on their own. And so there's a lot more about that, of course, in the book.
For sure. Yeah, and you walk through it, and we describe, and we're working through right now those four elements with
Hmm.
all of our guys. And I love the idea that we're, and as I work with the guys, I'm saying that we're dealing with this in two dimensions. We're not only examining how we were raised, but all of you who are parents or plan on being parents, you are also looking and evaluating, and sometimes reevaluating the relationship you have with your kids. So we're doing that, which has been really great to see for the guys. So now you get into, and I'll just go through these quickly. Um, with those absent, or some of those no versions, you have nine different examples of characteristics. And I'm just
Yes.
going to quickly read these, and I want to pick on one or two, and I'll just read them really quickly. Nine characteristics can be present when you fail to have these. Here we go. Hard time believing people care about you, oversensitive and often misread what people intend, easily angered, not sure what healthy male behavior looks like. You're insecure and need constant reassurance. You have dramatic mood swings. You're either the responsible son or the especially immature one. You can't get rid of negative voices in your head, and you cut yourself off from friends and family. That's quite a list that you've laid out
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Now, let me ask you, because primarily the guys that I work with are people who um, often they were raised in permissive families or latchkey kids, or
Hmm.
somewhere along the line, addictions set into their lives. And they were really set up. To quote one of my recovery buddies, he talked about being a porn survivor. And he had no defenses growing up for let your yes be yes as a man, let your no be no. So, can you describe, maybe in the context of men who feel like they have no internal fortitude, and how have you seen maybe the addictive struggle play itself out with some of the men that are missing some of these essential vitamins, nutrients, things
Hmm.
in their lives? How have you seen that play into it? And then we're going to get to the healing journey in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, caveat, I am not an addiction expert.
I understand.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but it would seem obvious
Yeah.
that men who did not have the right fertilizer and water and other
Hmm.
nutrients put into their lives would have some deficiency. So the most important thing that I can say is that if you grow up like I did,
Hmm.
feeling that you are not worthy, you're not the gleam in your mother's eye,
Hmm.
you were not a delight to your parents, then you're vulnerable. So I am the responsible son, but I have three younger brothers, one of whom followed in my footsteps. He quit
Okay.
high school, died of a heroin overdose.
Hmm. Okay.
I have another brother who never had a job for more than 6 months until he turned 50
Hmm.
and struggled with alcohol. And then my youngest brother is a recovering alcoholic, has a gambling addiction,
Right.
and is divorced. And so it seems, even though I'm not an expert, existentially speaking, I have quite a bit of experience seeing the negative effects of being a broken boy. And so you can tell me, Vern, if there's science, if there's research, if there's scholarly literature to back up what I'm talking about here with addiction, but it seems fairly transparent to me that there's a vulnerability to
Yes.
addiction to men who have grown up without having the encouragement and the affirmation of positive parenting.
Well, I love the writing of Gabor Mate, who works, downtown east side of Vancouver, who describes this in a way of trauma and addictions. But I
Yeah.
would use a much more popularized version. I describe men who grow up with some version of a broken situation as Velcro. They are
Mm,
one half of the Velcro,
yeah.
and some of these presenting medication choices easily attached to them
Mm,
in their lives. And we all know, whether it's I just read a thing about problem gambling. The earlier you start gambling, the harder it is to break. The earlier you start smoking, the harder it is to quit. The earlier, the brain, neuroplasticity, the wet cement
mm,
in our brain, the earlier it gets into your life, whether it was out of curiosity, or you just found that it felt good, and or you just found it took you away from your loneliness or some of the deficits of your childhood. The earlier those start, then the more embedded they become in your lives. And then as we
mhm,
get older, and now we move into relationships, I describe men who now have a feedback loop. Maybe they're 32, or maybe they're 28, and now they're in a committed relationship, and their girlfriend, fiance, wife is going, dude, no, this is not going to work in our marriage. Now, they never had that when they were single because they could do what they wanted. Now, all of a sudden, and so oftentimes it's that, the chickens coming home to roost. Now they're beginning to go, why am I the way I am? And how do I begin to transition to being a better man? So, with that kind of laid out, can you describe, because really this is the second half of your book. And we're kind of in the first half right now, Pat, and some of the guys are going, Vern, we are talking a lot about how screwed up we are and messed up we are. Tell me we're going to get to beyond
hope.
just beyond just description. When are we going to get to prescription and journey into healing and hope? So can you maybe talk a little bit about that before people, lose it here?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's probably a good idea to say at this point, I write solution books.
Yes.
I don't write problem books. But what I found with this particular book, so I usually spend maybe 10% of the time on the problem and then
Hmm.
90% on the solution. But here's the issue with this particular book. Man, if you're listening, see if this doesn't resonate with you. If you're trying to solve the wrong problem, you can only succeed by accident.
Hmm. Okay.
And this is such a pervasive problem and one that so many men have lived for decades and they have no idea. When they hear about the idea of childhood wounds, it doesn't even resonate with them. It doesn't
Right.
even connect with them.
Yeah.
But here it is, here it is, here it is. Watch this, guys. It doesn't make any difference how much you love God or want to love God. It's hard to move forward if you're stuck in the past.
Right.
So most of my work has been helping men discover or rediscover Jesus and then disciple them forward. But what I've also learned is that we need to also not only disciple the future, we need to disciple the past. So this book is designed to help you disciple the past, which is I think been a blind spot in the body. Not everybody, but I think
Mm,
it's not why discipling the past has not been a widespread priority.
fair enough. Yep.
Not even a thought process. But hopefully we're making more progress, and there are other people doing this kind of work too. I always say, anytime you have a unique message from God, you don't.
You don't.
When God's getting ready to do something, he typically puts that into the hearts and minds of thousands and tens of thousands of his children. So it is encouraging that there's more being said about
Right.
discipling the past. And so, but I saw the need that we needed to spend a little more time
Mm,
teasing out the problems so guys could understand what had really happened rather than
right.
just going immediately to the prescription and okay, let's go ahead and prescribe the pain medication, but let's not figure out where the pain's coming from. Guys, here it is. You cannot go around this pain. You have to go through it.
Mm,
And in
okay.
order to go through it, you need to understand what it is. So I'm sorry that it hurts. And I've had a
Right.
few guys tell me, I had a pastor tell me that he was picked up the book and started crying on the first page and didn't stop crying until he was done because it was
Wow.
just, so overwhelming because he had never
Mm,
really
right.
dipped into that. But yeah, so that said, that's the caveat. But the
Yes.
arc of the book it is a hopeful book because it shows how to heal and then how to break the cycle for the next generation.
And without going into all the details, again, your book does a great job of helping and setting men through that. You have referenced forgiveness is obviously something that was a part of that. Any other sort of cliff notes to help men? Now, again, you got to read the book, guys, but just to let them know some of the breadcrumbs that are there towards healing.
Yes, so yes. It's so interesting too because usually what I do is when I do something like this,
Mhm.
I uh, I know that most people are not going to go out and get the book, so I try to give as much
Yep.
value in the podcast as I possibly can. But guys, I'm just going to tell you, this is different. This is different.
Mm,
You're not going to be able to listen to this podcast
yeah.
and go and do what needs to be done. You actually do have to go do the work. You do
Yep.
have to go through the book. Um, so that said, I think the other things that are important is just getting out of denial, is to face the
Mhm.
truth and get out of denial. I'll tell you a story to illustrate this.
Please.
When I was writing the book, I recalled a story that I had completely buried. So denial is is pretending something didn't happen that you know about.
Hmm.
But I actually had emotional amnesia.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
literally did not remember this, but when I was writing the book, I remembered that when I was in college, I was racing motocross around the state of Florida,
Hmm.
and my parents never came to any of my games growing up. They didn't come to any of my races, but I invited them to come. And the one day they came to watch me race because it was here in the Orlando area.
Hmm.
That was the day I had the big crash, and they flew me to the hospital in a
Oh my.
helicopter. Yeah,
Oh my.
and I mean, I got a few things still wrong, but I was
Right.
okay generally. And but when I was writing the book, I remembered my parents didn't come to the emergency room to see how I was doing. And
Oh
not
my.
only that, Vern, they never called to see what happened.
Huh. That,
Now
yeah.
you would think that that would be enough to completely destroy me, right?
And that you would remember that for the rest of your life.
Right. But that's the
Yeah.
power of
Wow.
denial, you see, is that
Wow.
we can
Yeah.
just and so one of the things I do in the book is I just help men
Yeah.
through illustrations and giving them the opportunity to do it for themselves, to remember, to
Yeah.
remember, and then to face that truth and then and then work through the process of forgiveness and making amends when it's necessary, setting up boundaries. If you have parents that were toxic and they're still toxic, you
Mhm.
can still forgive them and have viable boundaries. And it's also important to say that under no circumstances, if there was any kind of criminality or any kind of abuse, under no circumstances is that your fault.
Yes.
That's you were just a kid.
Yeah.
And so, but to process all that and to get to a place of health. So I skipped over a lot, but there are all kinds of, I actually put in scripts
Yep.
of what you can do if your parents are receptive, what you can do if your parents are not receptive. And so I think it'll be very useful to men. It's a very
Mm,
practical guide.
it is.
Yeah.
And Patrick, let me say, with the four groups that we're going through right now, as men are sharing their stories, there is a
Hmm.
powerful healing component with the tears, the emotions, the remembering. One guy shares a story, and all of a sudden it, helps another guy remember a story, not for the
Mm.
sake of wallowing in the dirt, but for revealing what
Yeah.
needs healing in some of the slivers that are in people's souls and spirits. And
Right.
let me just say, my three kids are all in their 30s right now, and you have this powerful story at the end. In fact, you even include the letter that you wrote to your kids. And right now, both my wife and myself are reading the book. Well, we've read the book, and she's two-thirds of the way through the book. And both of us have decided that one of the important things that we need to do with our children in their 30s is to write a letter to each one of them using
Mm.
some of the concepts that you lay out to really make sure that our children, even in their 30s, are well prepared for the future. Our job as parents, in one sense, is not over because they're in their 30s. And your book has been a catalyst for that. So on behalf of the listeners, I want to thank you. And I want to echo, guys, you need to get the book From Broken Boy to Mended Man. If any of this is tweaking any part of your soul, your spirit, you're going, man, why am I where I'm at? And how do I become a better man? Guys, pick up the book. Patrick, how do people connect with you if they want to get more information about what you do?
PatrickMorley.com,
Okay.
Morley. And the book is on all the major
Yep.
booksellers. I just tell guys, for most guys, just go to Amazon and get it.
Hmm.
Um, the thing is, as you're talking there, I was just thinking about um, the first couple of sentences in the book.
Hmm.
And the first chapter, guys, it's called The Fraternal Order of Broken Boys. And
Okay.
here are the opening sentences. There are millions of us. We carry around leftover pain from childhood wounds. As a result of this unprocessed pain, we act out in ways that damage our relationships. We're easily offended, fragile. We lash out, we withdraw. We're baffled by our own behavior. Frankly, we're not even sure what normal behavior looks like. We all want to silence the voices of the past, but the way forward is shrouded in mystery. And I go on to talk about how we want to remove
Wow.
that mystery.
Well, what a great intro, and also what a great invitation for men to take that journey. Pat, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Our guys are going to be thrilled to be able to listen to this because we've been working together, and I just want to invite other men to take the journey as well. So God bless you. Thank you again for being willing to come on.
Thank you, and greetings to all of you men.
Amen.
Appreciate you being here today.